All right, so that should be showing up. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking a little bit about the basics of marketing. This is geared mostly toward direct marketing, but we'll also talk a little bit about wholesale and some other avenues as we go. So the topics that we're going to be discussing today are just some basic marketing considerations, what you need to be thinking about as you're deciding how are you going to market your products. We're going to discuss a little bit about the difference between the fresh and the processing markets, the organic market and what the outlook for that looks like. And then what are the actual local marketing opportunities that exist for smaller scale growers? And then kind of what this is looking like now that we're in the COVID era and how that is affecting the way in which we are selling our crops. So often when I talk to growers or potential growers, they are telling me that marketing is often the most difficult part of farming. They can grow a crop and they can do it successfully, but the hard part is having to market it themselves. The farmer now in today's climate is having to do it all. They're having to grow the crop, they're having to pack it, and then they're having to sell it. So you pretty well, because of this, the way that produce is marketed has really changed in the last 20 years. So the most important thing that I will tell growers when they come to me with any sort of idea, like I want to grow this crop or I want to do that, the first thing that I typically ask is, well, do you have a market or have you researched the market? And sometimes that stumps people, but if you are going to grow a crop and you're wanting to do it for profit, you have to think about these things ahead of time. So market research is really important. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how the types of information that you need to be acquiring in order to know your market. So I've often had a good word of advice that's been given to me from several growers that I work with currently that say, I like to have the crop sold before I even put the seed in the ground. And, if you're doing direct marketing, that's a little bit harder, but you can have a good idea of who your potential market is and how you can meet them to meet their needs. So what is the types of information that you need to be collecting before you're producing your fruits or veggies? Well, first off, you have to determine the geographic area where you're going to be marketing. You have to know what the consumers are like in that area. This can include, what is the population? What's the age of your potential consumers? What is their average income? What percent have children? What other opportunities do they have to purchase fresh produce? These are the types of questions that you need to be asking so that you can fill that gap or fill any gaps that are there with your produce. You need to be assessing the level of unfulfilled demand in that marketing area. Is there any niche that you can fill that currently exists? And then as well as knowing your potential consumers, you need to know your competition. Who are your competitors? Where are they located? What services are they providing? Is there anything that they're not doing that you can do or anything they are doing that you can do better? I think yeah. So yeah, like I just mentioned, can you do the job better and draw part of the market away from competitors? Can you add a quality that's not currently there? Can you provide a product in a time of year when it's not available from other people? Like if you were to do some sort of season extension with the high tunnel or something so that you can have tomatoes earlier. That's the sort of thing you need to be thinking about. Additionally, you need to be considering the packaging that you potentially can be using. How do you have to prepare that produce? What type of marketing costs are there going to be? So a little bit about the fresh market. If you've been around any produce buyers, you're aware that today's
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you need to advance your slides. We're just seeing your main slide.
Oh. Well, it's working on my end. So let me try this again. I'm sorry. I didn't have, I wasn't checking the chat currently. Let me stop share and try again. I played with this last night to make sure that it was working, so I guess it's not. Gotta love technology. All right, can someone speak up and tell me what they're seeing right now?
It's showing.
I'm sorry?
The fresh market slide.
Okay. Do you want me to scroll back a little so you can see the ones that that you missed?
Maybe quickly?
Okay, sure. Basically, they're just the questions written out. So when you have this, you'll have access to this afterwards so that you can go back and look at the questions. But I have the 3 types of information that you need to be thinking about before producing your crop, and then some questions to get to know your typical consumers in that area. So, all right, are we good now? Okay, so we're gonna jump back in on fresh markets. But so basically the fresh market is set up in such a way because consumers who go to a store are expecting to be able to buy fresh produce, whatever they want, year round. It doesn't matter if that product is available locally in season or not. When somebody is going to the store because they need some tomatoes for a recipe, they expect that crop be there so that they can purchase it. And because of that, that has led these larger produce buyers to have to adjust the way in which they buy produce from growers. So they're having to establish buying points in different regions across the United States and even in foreign countries to make sure that they have that crop all the time as a steady supply. So typically that means that you're going to be having a larger, sorry, got people trying to join in here, that you're going to have produce buyers who are trying to buy large quantities from places where it's in season. So, for example, we have, I've got several growers who grow for a regional grocery store that I work with, and they'll sell their product during the summer when it's in season. But when let's use broccoli as an example. When broccoli is no longer in season in Virginia, usually that product is having to be shipped all the way across the country, like from California, because that's where it's available. So these larger retailers are typically, unless they have some sort of a middleman or a packer or distributor, less likely to buy from these smaller growers who don't have large supplies to fill an entire growing season. So for you all, if you were interested in potentially getting into some of these larger wholesale markets, that can be an option, is trying to find some sort of a middleman or a packer aggregator type facility so that they are able to congregate produce from different farms from different localities to fill those bigger orders. In recent years, the locally grown movement has become really, really popular. And, you know, those of us who are really familiar with the local farmers markets, are, you know, we're more used to that. That's the reason often that our clientele comes to us, because they want to know their farmer. They want that relationship. But the larger grocery store chains are now realizing that has value as well. And so they're trying to do more buy local programs throughout the year when crop is available. One grocery store that is more regional to my part of the state and down into Tennessee and Kentucky a little bit is Food City stores. And they have a really good, strong, locally grown program where they are supporting local farmers when that crop is in season. Often they will contract several months ahead of time with that grower and say, we need, X amount of product for these months. Can you supply it? And they will, as much as they possibly can, solely buy from that farmer and run really nice advertisements and specials to try to make sure that the people coming to their stores are aware of these local farmers and their importance to them. So these are popping up, more often. I'm seeing them also in Food Lions now, locally. So if you could get in with a program like that, that's a really good and a good opportunity. Additionally, you might find that you are able to find some restaurants who are big supporters of local agriculture and would also be willing to purchase product from you when it's available. So the fresh market is, it changes depending on what the consumers are demanding, but those are some basics. Differing from that is, if I can get my slides to advance, is the processing market. This one is a little less common for the smaller grower to access just because there aren't as many of them around. Additionally, if they're probably going to be looking for larger volumes. So this might be the seconds from a really big operation that they would send to them, that don't have to be as picture perfect. But if you do find a processing market that's willing, that you can sell your product to, it is important that you insist on putting together some sort of a contract so that you can verify, or that you have in writing, they're going to take X amount of product at whatever price. These contracts are really important and can kind of help minimize some of that risk as you go into your growing season. Another note on processing is that, especially if you're trying to sell at farmers markets, your roadside stand, wherever, you might wish to process some of your own and do some sort of a value-added product. If you are looking to do that, Virginia Cooperative Extension and VDEX, which is the Virginia Department of Agriculture, have a lot of information on how to do that appropriately and legally. We have several extension agents across the state who do a lot of work with this, especially with the Food Innovations Program at Virginia Tech. So you can reach out to them to make sure that you are testing, labeling all of these value-added products the way that they need to be in order to legally sell them at the market. So be sure to reach out to us again if that's something you're interested in. But you also, this can really help add another level to your services that you're providing the public, just because there might be something with like a strong local or regional demand where then you can charge a premium for that product. So now a little bit on the organic market. This is kind of as a whole for the nation. So basically, since the 90s, organic production has greatly increased, and production then following suit with demand. Mostly, the organic market is made up of smaller scale producers who are selling their products directly to the consumers. This would likely be farmers markets, special local health food stores, co-ops, more direct to consumer. There was a survey that the National Agricultural Statistics Service conducted in 2019 that showed that there has been a 31% increase in organic production since 2016. Vegetables alone are now at $2.08 billion, which is an increase of 27% just in that 4-year period. So 3-year period. So this is definitely really an important segment of the industry. But when you actually look at who's driving this market, surprisingly, it is actually millennials who are kind of the key spenders when it comes to purchasing organic produce. And while the shoppers in the US are still paying more for organic food, the price premium has been falling a little bit just because the options are, there are so many more options now. So going back to, you know, who are the people who are buying organic produce. I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I am. But so the National Organic Program is a program that kind of oversees organic certification in the United States. And since the implementation of this program, marketing outlets have really expanded. Most of the organic food that is sold in large supermarkets will be like in Walmarts, places like that. 2.4 billion in organic products were sold through retail markets, institutions, and local food hubs. Now, this 300 million is likely where you all are going to be finding, especially if you're a newer or beginning farmer, this is where you're going to want to probably start with the more direct-to-consumer approach, which would include farmers markets, farm stores, roadside stands, CSAs, online markets, that sort of thing. But that's a significant number. The 300 million of that larger number is important. So, and then the larger farms, this would be more of the people who are certified organic that are selling on a really, really large scale. They tend to be more vertically integrated. So they grow the crop, they pack it, they ship it, and then they kind of maintain it all the way through the food distribution. So that's kind of how they keep their prices down a little bit. Okay, so where is organic produce marketed? You have wholesale at the national level. So these would be like your Walmart stores, ones that are everywhere. And then you have wholesale at a statewide or regional level. These are more of your grocery stores like Wegmans, Food Lion, Food City, stores like that. You're also seeing it being sold at mid-sized markets, stores, and then the Farm to School program. I have a resource on this in our website that you can take a look at, but Extension's doing a lot of work helping growers access the more of the types of institutions as a potential market, like school systems, hospitals, places, more things like that. So that's another marketing option that we are within Extension trying to help ease the transition into that. So I have a source on that and some people you can contact if you're wanting to get into that a little bit. And then, of course, we have our direct sales to consumers and community-supported agriculture. So I did want to mention the Agricultural Marketing Service. This service is through the USDA, and it kind of administers programs that are there to support marketing for U.S. producers. Two services that are run through the AMS that you will likely be very familiar with, of course, are organic certification. And then also they run auditing services for food safety. So if you've been made aware of the GAP or Good Agricultural Practices audits for food safety, those inspections are essentially run through the Agricultural Marketing Service. And then they contract VDACs to conduct those inspections. But the USDA food safety audits are ran through this program. All right, so now we're going to be talking a little bit more about the mindset of the organic consumer. So this consumer is not very easy to define. Typically that's because the likelihood of having a consumer who is buying solely organic food, and that is all, is actually pretty small. Most often, the organic consumer is still purchasing more non-organic products than they are certified organic. And it most of the time will kind of come down to money and availability. You know, what can they afford currently? They might be aware of organic food and some of its benefits, but aren't all the time available to purchase it. So being aware of that is really important if you're trying to consider, you know, if you should become organic certified or not. So income, like I said, is probably the biggest factor in purchasing organic food. Below a certain income, even if the consumer knows the benefits, if they can't afford it, they just can't afford it. So they're not going to buy it. You'll often see that organic purchases are being made more often in areas where the cost of living is a little bit higher and people are making a little bit more money. But even more correlated than money is education, which I thought was very interesting. So a college-educated individual is more likely to purchase organic food than someone who just has a high school level education. And then women are also more likely to buy organic food than men. But, you know, when you think about the people who are actually out there at the grocery stores doing the purchasing for their family, more often it is women, and more organic purchases are being made by younger women with children, which also makes sense when you think about baby food and things like that. So trying to make good choices for their families. So. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about pricing. So we know a little bit about the market as a whole, but if you're going to be selling a crop, you have to decide what you're going to charge so that you can not only cover your costs, but make a little bit of profit. So I've tried to compile a couple of resources where you can compare the market prices from different areas across both the nation and the state. So on this slide, I have a screenshot from the National Specialty Crops Organic Summary. This is put out daily, but it has terminal prices from different areas across the nation. Now, it's a lot harder to find good marketing reports on organic produce than it is conventional, just because there is less of it. But there are some, so this is one resource that you can look at. But of course, this is going to be more terminal wholesale prices. So your retail prices, especially if you're in, you know, certain areas with greater population, you know, it might be a little bit higher, but this can give you a starting point at least. On the right side of this slide, I talk a little bit about 3 types of pricing that you will need to pay attention to when setting yours. So first off, there is competitor pricing, which is kind of what it sounds like. With this one, you're going to be using these summaries, like I've shown you here, to help adjust your pricing based on the pricing of other people selling produce, whether that be locally to you or across the state or nation. You'll see I have 2 clickable links there, but you might, one will take you to the Ag Marketing Service reports, and then I have growingformarket.com. They put out a newsletter, I believe monthly, and as part of that, they also sometimes put in a little bit about organic marketing and market prices. And I have some more stuff in the resources on the website, so if you take a look at that for competitor pricing. Then we have the cost plus pricing. So this is where you have to know your cost of production, and then you will add a specific desired percent so that you get your desired profit margin. So if you know you want to make so much, you'll just add a little bit on. And of course, you have to kind of gauge your potential customers as well. You know, what are they willing to pay? So that brings you into value-based pricing. So you're going to take what your competitors are charging, what it's costing you to produce the crop, and then you're also factoring in the willingness of your consumers or your customers to pay for that product. This one I think is the most beneficial for you to use, just because it not only covers your bases, but you're going to be getting a little bit of profit, but you also don't want to overprice or underprice, because it's a lot easier to drop a price than it is to raise a price on a customer. But if you start too high, you might lose that customer and they might not come back to know that you've lowered your prices. So you have to be careful and try to be careful when you set your prices at the beginning. Here's a little bit more on wholesale pricing. Of course, if it's retail, you might be getting a little bit more of a premium for that. But there is one link on here that is broken that I guess that website is no longer reporting. At the bottom where it says the Rodale Institute, they don't have that pricing report currently. So, but the other ones, you should be able to find some good information on that. Let me see, somebody said something in the chat. Yeah, and some customers want to bargain with you on price, and that does happen. And you have to in order to do that, you have to know what it's costing you to grow that crop. I mean, you can only wiggle so much if you're going to be taking a loss. So, very good point. Lost my cursor. All right, this is a screenshot from VDAX, or the Virginia Department of Ag, and I have found that they actually put out Virginia retail market reports monthly. They don't report on every market in Virginia, but they typically have some of the larger ones in a lot of the more populated areas across the whole state. So this can be a really great resource for you when you're just wanting to know, how your prices are comparing to other places across the state, and if they are kind of on the same ballpark. So these are done monthly, and I have the link there that you can visit, or just Google VDAX retail farmers market prices, and that should pop up for you. So speaking of VDAX, they have regional marketing managers in place. This is somebody employed by the Department of Ag who is there to kind of help produce buyers with their marketing efforts. There is one of these marketing managers in each of the regions across the state. And you'll see I have put the contact information for the marketing manager in Southwest Virginia. But if you will just go onto the Department of Ag's website, you can find the person that you need to be talking to in your area. And they are there to help you essentially sell your product and be successful. So enhancing sales efforts, developing your value-added ventures, and then working with commodity boards and other growing associations, which is really key. So a little bit on the Virginia Grown campaign. Anyone who's been at a Virginia farmers market has probably seen these signs up and used some of their resources. But if you were newer to the game, these are free logos which are available to you from the Virginia Department of Ag. And the whole point of them is to help you promote your Virginia grown products. So these logos are really nice, and they are they're essentially there for you to just say, my crop is Virginia grown. I'm proud of it. And it can, start some conversation with some potential customers. So the logos are free to download and use, but they do have some more products that you can pay for, such as vinyl banners, different posters, price cards. I see these often at farmers markets, and they're really nice. And rack cards, and even tote bags. I like to show this to farmers market managers in case this is something they might want to get for their vendors. But you fill out this and you can order these from the Virginia Grown website. But the logos are just easy. They're free. You can download those, do with them what you want. So really, it's a nice program that can help you promote your products. All right, so Now we're going to start talking a little bit about some of the pros and cons of the direct marketing approaches that you might take. So you might do one or multiple of these, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that you would need to consider with any of these ventures. So first, we'll talk about roadside marketing, just because it's the most common. It can be the easiest, depending on how involved you want to be in your setup. But essentially, you're going to require some capital investment in a facility. If you look at my pictures, I've got two different options. The first one at the top is just a mobile trailer. I like this idea because, of course, it's mobile. You can take it different places. You could take it to where the people are. We used one like this when I was growing up. We used to sell at a farmer's market locally. I grew up on a produce farm. And we had a trailer very similar to this. And you would be surprised at the people who would come up just because of, its curb appeal. It just looked pretty, and you would draw in customers on that. And then, of course, you could have a more permanent option like you see at the bottom, where you have, permanent tables, a covered structure, whatever you are willing to put into it. But consider, of course, is you are the main person here that's providing the harvesting, the market prep, retail labor, all of that. So, and the most important thing to consider when you're doing anything roadside is location, location, location. If you're on a road where no one's going to know that you're there, you're going to really have to do a lot more advertising and promotion so that people know to come to you. And often, you might have to think about what else besides produce or what other services or goods can I provide that are going to entice people to come to me, especially if it's not a really, really convenient, accessible location. So, and then farmers markets. Farmers markets, they kind of offset the disadvantage of production location. They do a lot of the advertising for you. You may still want to, draw people into your stand, but often the farmers markets typically like to do special events on weekends or holiday markets, things that are going to draw in people anyway. And so that's going to help a lot with drawing people to you. You're going to have a little bit higher level of customer traffic. Other vendors can actually help. They can attract potential customers, of course, but then they may also be direct competition. So that's something to consider. That kind of goes back to the knowing your market. Before you go to be a vendor at a market, you may want to scope it out. Like, what other crops are people selling there, and what can I bring that's missing? At a farmer's market, you might not see the bigger premiums for organic produce, but the key really with this marketing method is, of course, customer relationships. People are coming to you because they want to know your story. They want to know you. They want to know your farm. They're not just buying the produce. They're buying a piece of your story. One of the big disadvantages, of course, is the time commitment. It's a little bit more inconvenient to sell at a farmer's market than it would be on your own produce stand. You're having to get all of your stuff ready either the day before or really early in the morning. Then, of course, you have the travel there. What if you have too much produce and can't sell it? Or what if you get to the market and don't have enough and run out? And then, so that's something to consider too. It's not like you can just run down the road to the field and grab some more really fast. Additionally, certain markets, of course, are only open one day a week. So if this is your only method of marketing, you might have to jump from market to market different days, which might be a little bit tougher if you have like a separate full-time job off the farm. But the success of selling at a farmer's market is really going to come down to building relationships with your customers. So they have to understand, yeah, maybe someone else also has tomatoes and corn, but if you get it from me, then this is how it's grown. So that's the key when it comes to farmers markets. A little bit on the U-pick operations. These are a little less popular for vegetables, just because of it doesn't work as well as it does like with fruits, like blueberries, strawberries, orchards, even pumpkins. But you might find success with this if you had people interested in getting really large quantities, like for canning, home processing, church groups, things like that. Big disadvantage here is that you'd have to be willing to accept a certain amount of unintentional damage. Certain vegetable crops, if they're just a once over type deal, then that's not a big problem, but of course. And then another one is food safety considerations. Depending on if you have to have an audit or whatever, just how can you ensure that the people visiting your farm are following the food safety practices that they're supposed to be and not bringing in, any pathogens or anything that could cause foodborne illness. So just some thoughts to consider if you're interested in doing a U-pick. And then a little bit about CSAs. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, which is essentially a contract with your customers saying that you're going to be providing a specific vegetable or fruit over the course of a certain length of time or the season. Most of the time, people pay up front for these. I've also seen them, however it works for you and the inflow of money, but they may want to pay weekly or whatever. But you're just contracting with the customer to produce a specific amount or a basket or whatever. Some of the things that you might need to consider if you're interested in going this route might be if you're going to do deliveries or if your customers are going to come to you and pick up. If you're going to do deliveries, of course, you'd have to consider a delivery vehicle, maintaining that, making sure that you're able to keep the produce cold or cool during transit so that it maintains good quality. You'll have to have good customer relations. If you want people to keep, coming back year after year, of course, you'll have to keep the customer happy. And then the biggest thing I think is just making sure that you have a wide variety of fruits and veggies throughout the season. So even if you run out of one thing, you're able to supplement it with another to meet your customers' demands. So success really depends on having a long growing season and having something of value throughout the whole time. So, perhaps if you run out of one thing, you might even be able to work with another farmer or another grower nearby to help, build your baskets up. Additionally, I've seen it be really popular to add in things besides produce. You might be able to add in eggs, baked goods, meat, cheese, flowers, ornamental stuff, whatever you can to just keep the customer happy. Lost my cursor again, sorry. So big key is how do you price a CSA? And I went and found a really good resource guide that North Carolina State University put together on CSA pricing. And I have put it here as a link that you can Google it. And I also have it on the resources on our website that kind of shows you how to price these so that it's appropriate and you're actually making a profit, because this long-term stuff, it would be harder to make, changes as needed as you go. Another thing to consider, logos and packaging. When you are marketing anything, you want to be sure that you stand out from your competition. So utilizing a logo might be something that can help you, especially if you're able to package that product in a way that if someone sees it somewhere else, they're like, oh, I know that farm and I know how they grow their produce and I really like that. So that recognizable brand can be really helpful. There are lots of services that can help you create a logo. I know I use Canva a lot. It's free online. So it might be something that you could look at, but just what can you do to help build that brand? And then with packaging, this kind of just depends on several factors. One being your buyer. If you're selling it direct to the farmer's market, it might not be as big a deal as if you were also having some that you were trying to wholesale. How are you planning to sell it? And then also a thing to consider is food safety requirements. Depending on whether or not you have to have food safety certification or not, that is going to depend on what you package your product in, what it's made of, if it's a reusable container or not, that sort of thing. And another instance includes barcodes and traceability labels. Those are both becoming increasingly required from different food safety certifiers. The Virginia State University has a really awesome small farm marketing program that I wanted to make you aware of. Dr. Teresa Nartea, she's the second one from the left in this picture. She runs this program, and they do a lot of really great work to help small scale growers promote their products the best way. They have tons of resources available for selling at farmers markets, lots of resources on direct-to-consumer marketing, especially with e-commerce and social media presence, small farmer viability. This is it's a great program with lots of good publications and resources that you can access online. So give them a Google, and I'll be happy to help you get in touch with this program as well if you needed it. All right, so this is kind of the topic of the year, right? So how has COVID affected the way in which we market our produce now? So farmers markets have had to make some adjustments in order to stay open. So in Virginia, the phase 3 guidelines have required some changes, including you have to post appropriate signage. This is related to hand washing, sanitation, social distancing. Patrons must follow physical distancing, routinely disinfect, and then you have to have hand washing stations, hand sanitizers, and all of that. A lot of market vendors, as you can see in this picture, have made changes as far as they don't let the customers handle the produce anymore. It's more of a you can point at what you want and I'll bag it for you type situation. And we've also seen a really big increase in online ordering. I don't really see this going away. I think that because of COVID, we've all gotten pretty accustomed to the curbside pickup way of shopping. And so I think that added convenience is likely going to stick around even after COVID kind of hopefully goes away. So this increase in online ordering has kind of it's had to force a lot of people to make changes to the way in which they promote themselves. You know, you have to be visible, you have to be accessible, and that's why I think the marketing program at Virginia State can really come in handy to help you when you're trying to develop what system works the best for online ordering, whether that just be ordering on Facebook Messenger or a more sophisticated system. These actually are signage that the marketing program at VSU created for Virginia Cooperative Extension. And I wanted to point these out just because I thought they were really cute. You know, you can Google farmers market social distancing signs and find a plethora of information, but I just thought these were really cute and a little bit more lighthearted. So I wanted to share these and let you know that they are downloadable. You can print them and use them at your farm stand, if you're a market manager, wherever. And they're just they get the point across, but with a little bit more of a fun farming attitude. So I like these. This resource slide is really non-inclusive. I have all of the resources online at our website. You see the bottom link there says the Google site. And if you haven't been able to look at that and check that out yet, I really encourage you to, because it will have this recording and all of the resources for every single presentation in this series available for you to look at. So with that, I'm going to open it back up for comments and discussion, and feel free to share some anything that you've done and found success with some of the newer growers on this call that might be helpful to them. So let me stop share in a second and can find my cursor. All right. Does anybody have anything they want to say real quick? All right, so I'm just going to work through some of the comments as we go. So some customers want to bargain with you on price. Yes, we mentioned that as we were working through the PowerPoint. And, you know, like I mentioned, as long as you know what it costs you to produce that product, you're better able to know how much you can wiggle on price. But if you're not aware of exactly how much it's costing you, you have the potential of losing money. So number one there is figure out your inputs. Someone else says, just wanted to say that I did have a good time hanging out with customers. I just didn't expect customers would want a relationship with me, or that some would become friends. Yeah. So direct marketing provides the opportunity to really get to know your customers. And like I said, that's with farmers markets, so much of it is the experience as much as it is for the product that they're getting. They're wanting that relationship, and they're wanting to know where their food comes from and know your farmer, know your food. So really important there too. Yeah, someone else is highly recommending VSU's marketing program. Yeah, they're really great and have a lot of good resources. And they've also been really helpful for extension agents too, providing lots of good in-service opportunities for us to help you all. And the buy fresh paper, that I'm not really sure. I'll have to look into that. I know what that is, but I don't know. I forgot to look into that before this presentation. So, does anybody else have anything they want to say? Most local farmers markets charge hefty setup cost. Is it really worth it when added to cost? I think that goes back to, you have to know the people who are attending that market and kind of their price point. So what are other vendors charging, and are they able to make enough money? I'm stumbling over my words here, but if the people in that buying region aren't willing to pay what it's going to cost you to put the crop out and sell it, you might need to consider maybe finding a market that you might have to travel a little bit further to, but is going to be have some higher willingness to pay. Sorry. Yeah. So. Good, thank you. So I hope some of this was helpful. Like I said, it was very introductory, but hopefully it gave you some thoughts to consider. And of course, more than anything, I want you to know that we at Extension are here as you go. So come to us, call your local extension agent. You should have one in every county, or at least really close to wherever you are across the state. And that's what we're here for, is to help you not just with marketing, but the growing of your crop from start to finish. So reach out to us. Remember that all these recordings are going to be on the website, and I will, I'm going to post the evaluation link on the website as well. And then any of you that pre-registered that I have your email, I will be sending that to you as an email. And please take a few minutes to fill that out. It'll just help improve presentations in the future. So there's nothing else. I'll go ahead and close this out to keep us within our hour, but let's see, one last thing. What about unattended cash boxes? What exactly do you mean by that? Roadside scenes. I don't know. That's kind of up to you. It's like a trust thing, I guess. I don't really know many people that do that. But I'm sure some of my older like fruit stands are doing that I work with. But
Ashley,
yeah.
this is Linda. I grew up in Wisconsin, where you can tell my accent, where we had a lot of cash boxes, but that was an era of the 60s and 70s and 80s. Now with COVID, people are more desperate.
Right.
Saying that they're more thieves that we had. We have some, I have never done it. Actually, I have done it. I personally, and other people can do this too, I have a cash box with regular customers. They know where the cash box is, and I leave a limited amount of change in there. And then I ask people to just write down what they owed me. And I've had really good, or people say IOU. They'll write out an IOU, $12 for the eggs I took. And the next time I see them, they've got the money. So at the last minute, they can make an IOU purchase, but the cash is not in a known area where it's not sitting out on the wagons, the hay wagons, like it used to be in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So it's only the people you kind of trust, because
I can see that.
Bad horror story.
Yeah, I can see that, especially like I have a grower who does, or I don't think he is anymore, but last year he did like a CSA, but you could pay by the week. And he had a system like that set up to where his people that he, his repeat customers that he knew and had that relationship with, they could go when he wasn't there, and he had it set out for them. They just paid, put it in the box, and took their stuff. And there was that trust and relationship there already. I don't think I would do it for just the random passerby. No,
in the 60s and 70s,
things were different.
At least in the Midwest and in Wisconsin. But it's gotten, I'm not sure, too many people. Now people are even more desperate.
Right.
And another little marketing thing that I've learned, I'm also giving any excess, like my eggs. I probably dropped off very close to 120 eggs at my church. Now, over, a dozen or 2 dozen a week. But that also got a lot of good PR. And we have in Charlottesville, we have local food banks that take fresh. So I am offering excess produce to churches and hungry and banks, which gives me good PR, which the people that run these say, oh, now I know how good that lettuce is. I'll go to that farm.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
And I also believe give back. We're lucky to have land. We're lucky, most of us, to have land on this program. We're lucky to be able to physically do this.
I'm liking all these comments about the cash boxes, though. So it's nice to hear your personal experiences. I think a lot of benefit from these type of meetings comes from hearing from other people. And often when you have a virtual meeting like this, I feel like the conversation kind of gets muted versus what it would have done in person. But also, if we had done this in person, all of you wouldn't have attended. So it's got its pros and cons. So thank you for your participation in the chat. That's really great. If nothing else, I will hopefully see you all again on Thursday, where we're having Alex Hessler. He's a professor at Virginia Tech, and he's going to be talking about organic production practices. So that should be a great presentation. Hopefully you're able to join us. If not, it will be recorded. So I'm going to end this meeting, but look for an email from me with the evaluation link. Thank you, everybody.